Welcome, everybody. This is Soul Fit Series with your host, Tiffany. And I'm really excited. I have a guest today, Miss Anna. And Anna and I, I don't even, we met over social media pretty much, right?
Yeah, I went one
Eh,
of went to one of your like spiritual events one day in Mission. I think that's kind of how
Gosh,
we
okay.
initially met.
That's
Yeah.
right. That was fun. We were doing a
Hmm.
lot of those circles and it's really neat to see people unpack like when you're so willing and like just to like give up old narrative and so yeah, that's what those circles were about to help just like reclaim, right, those parts of you that we're not always looking at. And yeah, so seeing you grow or just being in the eye, because I've been an observer of you and I find you to be very inspiring, as I feel like as much as you don't want to, how shy you are, I know it's hard for you to be in social media presence, and I want you to know that that is a very common thing, and that's something that took me years to work on. But in the same, no, but and in the same breath, it's like it quiets us in a way where we still have so much to offer. And I feel like what you offer this world and your services, I feel like you're an expert, and you're really, I see you good at your job because you take it seriously and you're passionate about it. So, what does
Thank you.
Anna do? She is, I'm going to look on your Instagram here because we were like, how are we going to introduce you? You got a beautiful story and there's a lot of nuance in it. And just to really sum it up, short, long here, you're a registered health coach.
Mhm.
You work in alternative and holistic health. This is your services. So, you like more of the holistic approach, which I do too. Um, we're into holistic nutrition, which is dope because I feel like there's a lot of confusion with old programming on like how people want to look to how they should want to feel, right? And
Mhm. Mhm.
there is so much behind nutrition, it can be overwhelming, but yet we can simplify it. And I think just continue that curiosity around how food can be more medicine than just fuel, especially getting into herbs and all that stuff. And then we got your
Mhm.
fitness instructor, your personal trainer, which I love. We totally resonate with because I feel like a lot of this, like overall arcing of health and wellness, is it stems from fitness. I think fitness is a good hook to get you moving your body and your energy and seeing how many positive uh, effects it has on you. And then we're getting into mindset. So you have mindset on your Instagram, which I love because, well, for one, you're real and you're straight shooter. Like you just get like to business. And when it comes to mindset, I think it's like for us as trainers, we get a really good insight of what the common mindset can be. We can find a commonality with what's going on in our culture and then in the people that, the clients that we see, because we will always kind of flourish in the areas that we're really good at. And I know that you must see a lot of what it takes for a mindset to be motivated and inspired, right? Would you
Yeah, yeah,
agree?
exactly. Hmm.
Yeah. Um, so before we get into our topic today, we're going to talk about mindset, and we're starting mindset with this really strong foundation of like health pillars I like to work with, and I know it's common for a majority of people who like to level up their spiritual, mental, physical health. Um, Now we're talking about mindset because it does take a mindset shift to decide where you're going based on, what your aspirations are and goals are. But before we get into that, Anna, let's I want to give everybody a little bit of a nuance of like really who you are. I think you have a really beautiful story, and I'd love for you to share it to bring some humility, show how human you are, because your story, not that it's it's as much common, but in a way that I'm sure a lot of people that are listening or that will be listening can resonate with that. So let's get into it. Tell us about Anna.
So yeah, pretty much my life started with a lot of sports growing up, competitive sports, where I was traveling a lot, competing on a provincial level in Winnipeg. Even when I was in Russia, as soon as I can walk, my parents would always put me and my brother into sports just for the physical aspect of it, the health aspect of it, and just something for kids to do. So then once I kind of graduated high school and stopped doing my sports. I had my son young, had 21. And then at that time, I kind of lost that part of myself a little bit, and I just wasn't sure who I am. I was in a new place, new people, just new identity. But that inside the internal aspect of needing to move my body and the fitness part of it is still within me. So I got back into the gym, got into some kickboxing just to get moving. And a lot of it was for like mental health purposes too, because it was such a huge identity of mine that like it wasn't something that I was willing to lose just because I became a mom. Um, so then from there, I went to um, like college for kinesiology. So I wanted to have that fit fitness career from just my background, everything that I knew. And then graduated Langara College with a kinesiology diploma. I realized that to get into physio was another like 4 years full time of university that I really didn't have the time or the funds for being a single mom. So then I just got into personal training, which was very similar, but then I was working with people more towards health and fitness goals rather than rehab, which I think identified with me a little bit more because I just wanted to help people get out of their like the mindset of the negativity and just wanted to make them or have them feel better and look better at the same time. And that's when I realized like the two really tied into each other in regards to the mindset aspect of it. Few years into personal training, a lot of people, a lot of clients, and even myself, was kind of realizing that nutrition, it was even a bigger aspect than just working out because you work out what 2, 3 times a week with a trainer, 6 times a week, sometimes a week by yourself or whatever your goals are. But what you're eating is such a bigger aspect of it because how many times you eat a day? Like we can't go a day without food. I mean, we can, but we really shouldn't be unless you're actually like fasting or whatnot.
And
But your
honestly,
nutrition,
this
mhm,
is like not to interrupt. I just want to add a little nuance because in my fitness journey, it literally like it started after I had kids, and it it didn't even start with moving my body yet. It did start with my nutrition. And
mhm.
I don't know, it's just like the way it made me feel. Just had more clarity, and then eventually just so much energy I needed to do something about it. So that's when I started going to the gym. Anyways,
Yeah, makes sense.
yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I find being a mom for sure, because then it's not even just yourself you're taking care of, it's now your family, it's your kids. And if as a mom, you're not good with yourself, you don't love yourself, how are you gonna now do that for your family and kids? Especially kids are sponges. They see how we are more so than what we do. So if you're focusing on yourself, if you love yourself, if you're taking care of yourself, that's how your kids will learn and use it as like their foundation of how to really live life.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, they are a product of their environment. If their
Hmm.
environment is that, then they always have that to look upon. It's like that contrast that you, even if they don't totally follow it. I mean, I have a son who kind of did, and then my daughter's totally rebellious. So, but they grew up around it, and it's like, you'll see it one day, one day.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm pretty sure you're not raising them to be unhealthy, making unhealthy choices, or like really obese too. Like they understand what it takes.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so now that's like with the beautiful part about what our shadows are is we become these masters at them, and then we become teachers. And I
Mhm.
believe we all have the potential to be leaders. We can all heal ourselves, and we have that potential, and we all have these abilities that, if we can turn them into our power, that's how strong we can be. But we can also do the opposite, and we can make it our weakest spot if we're not finding inspiration or a mindset where you can look beyond the depths of your darkness. I find that very inspiring that you use that as your fire. So, would you say that this is the clientele that you're attracting? Is like more rehab? And yeah, that's just
No, I wouldn't
my
say really
answer to
more
that question.
rehab, but more people that just want to take power back into their hands and like empower themselves with the health and fitness choices that they make for themselves and their family rather than relying on those external sources that really don't know the person, like especially over the last couple of years with how everything has transitioned into kind of stepping away from the medical field, but more towards the holistic field of I want to feel better for myself and for lifestyle choices rather than I want to look a certain way. Right now, a lot of mindsets have shifted to I want to feel better. I want to live longer. I want to be there for my kids, for my grandkids. So that's kind of the clients that I like to work with because it resonates with who I was and who I am.
Well, yeah, shit, I got so much to add to this. This is such a good conversation because I resonate with you, like with the clientele that I bring in. It is really ultimately all about calling back their power. Now, this is a good nuance going into the topic of mindset because what to take for mindset, I have notes here, but what it always seems to ultimately come down to is where your self esteem is. Okay. Where do you find value? Like, if you find yourself, if you see that your body is a value, then you're going to take care of it. If you see, you get a Louis Vuitton purse and that's a value, you're going to take care of it. So why can't we turn that inward? And it's kind of, everybody, I feel like experiences one way or another. We all have these same experiences, just like when, at what point. Um, okay, so back to mindset. I feel like in order to make that shift, to actually bring you to a place where you feel inspired to move towards whatever is good for you, it is all about taking care of yourself. It
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
about that self love, self care practice. Um, the difference that I like to describe between self love and self care is self care, I would say, is a lot of like, starting with getting up in the morning, having adequate sleep. How about that? Get up, make your bed, brush your teeth, get dressed, make some food, make sure your environment's clean and organized. And then it comes into self love. It really is about slowing down and filling your cup with the things that are meaningful to you. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Mhm.
Because when the more that we do that, the more that we bring value to this fucking badass temple of ours. Right? And then we get a closer connection to our intuition. So you can't unsee things, so you tend to lean towards the things like, oh yeah, that thing makes me feel good. And that's why we also have to be careful with the things that give us that extreme dopamine hit, like the beautiful cell phones, the sex, the drugs, the rock and roll, the shopping, the fucking, like all those things, the likes, all the likes.
Yeah, no kidding.
We have to be mindful. Okay, so let's get into these notes a little bit. Um, how to get to a mindset that you can feel motivated and inspired. Well, we just kind of tapped into that. Do you feel that there's anything that you could add to that before we move
I
on?
think it
Any
comes down to
reflections?
just building small habits. Like
Mm-hmm.
for me, the biggest thing that really drives any change for me is the understanding of why I'm doing what I'm doing and like what it means to go that route. Because that's what I try to teach all my clients is that it's like I teach them. I don't just tell them what to do. I tell them why we're doing it, what this means long term, what this means right now, and just building those small habits, that understanding so that the
Mm-hmm.
brain kind of like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Let's do that. Because even like when you're looking at children, you're always telling them no, and they're still rebelling. It's like, well, as a parent, you have to tell them like why they can't do this, why they can't put their hand on a hot stove instead of just yelling no. And then they're like, oh no, I got this reaction from a parent. I
Yeah.
want that again. So then they're still gonna start rebelling more and more until they really understand what they're doing. But if you're teaching them and trying to get them to understand like the benefits of eating hearty meals, the benefits of movement and functional movement and strength training, how building muscle is so beneficial for your immune system, for your brain, for your longevity, instead of like, oh, you're just going to go do these bench press. I'm like, well, maybe I don't like it. But if I understand
Yeah.
why I want to do that, for like postural correction or whatever the case is a little bit more, it's like, okay, that makes sense.
I
Mhm.
never thought of it that part, the postural.
Mm, yeah.
um, I totally agree with that. It knowledge is power, right? Like
Yeah.
if we could get curious as to the why or anything that is like encompassing what is like holding you back. And I do feel when there is a bit of like a resentment, rebellious, anger, or frustration, everything has to do with the lack of understanding. And I think that it's like we forget. We've we kind of been a little bit um, steered into the direction of like I don't know what it means, but actually that's what it means. We're supposed to get curious about it and then become these masters.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we're not taught these things in school either.
No,
The school
we're
is like, let's focus on the week, the month, the year ahead, but nobody's
yes,
really teaching you like those long-term goals. It's like, well, what are you going to do outside of high school? How are you going to benefit society instead of just being that 9 to 5 taxpayer?
yeah,
Like, let's figure your life out so that you are beneficial, so that you are in power.
yes.
Hmm.
And this is why we do what we do, and this is why we're talking about this, and this is why we have this podcast. Just to
Yeah.
share that knowledge, go back to the roots of it all,
Mhm.
and honestly, that is the foundation of what I do. I've seen this what I had observed. I observed that we're so far removed from our roots, and it is hard to see the simple things of what it takes to actually bring that level of happiness or balance in your life. And fucking why we're talking about this, because as a culture, we're fucking lost. Like, what is,
Mhm.
and there's lots that's gone on over the years. We're in a way different position than we were a couple hundred years ago. You know,
Yeah.
like there's a lot to be grateful for, but it's still fucked up. Still
Mhm.
weird. Still
Yeah.
weird.
We
So
almost got some pros and some cons with it.
absolutely to
Hmm.
everything, and without getting political and all that bullshit, let's just be real. We're far removed from our roots and we need to go back to the basics, and it's really important that we have these conversations so you don't feel crazy.
Yes.
Right?
Even just going outside and grounding yourself is so beneficial, but people are like,
We
what?
don't
Touch
talk
the
about that.
grass? Why?
Nobody says. They're like
No.
weirdo tree huggers. Well, there's a reason why they're doing that. It's
Yeah,
not
no
just
kidding.
chain yourself to a tree to protect a forest. No, it's so much more. There's bad nuance again. The why, the
Mhm.
Avatar had it right. They
Yeah.
really opened our eyes to, even though it was a movie, but like shit, that was like very real. Like
Yeah, I
we
agree.
have that ability. Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so back to my notes. Um I asked Google. I asked Chat GBT, and I take certain things with a grain of salt, but I was like, no, I like this list. Like, this is good. We got our first one is that self care practice that we talked about. Oh, sorry. These are the answers to help with, to help level up wherever you're at. Okay. So this is my
Okay.
list.
Mhm.
So the self care practice is that sleep, huge, nourish your body, move your body. I mean, I could definitely add to that, whatever that
Mhm.
is, but those those three, if you're missing one of those, that is a very strong foundation of getting your easing your mind, because if we can't think properly because we're malnourished, then we overthink stress, can't comprehend stress, can't embody it in a way that would be beneficial. So you're in this perpetual cycle of possible anxiety and depression because you just can't manage that shit. So um, if you can bring in aspects that to help you sleep. Now, we might have to do part one, part two. I don't know how the fuck we're gonna get through all this, but this is really important. The practice, the self care, the sleep. Now, what would you say is a good like? What's a good amount of sleep for you in a night?
I'd say like 8 hours is decent for me. I'm one of
For
those
you?
people like I need my sleep. If I don't catch up on my sleep at least like once a week, I'm so just like a zombie for the remainder of the week. So I need like
Yeah.
at least because I work early in the mornings where my shift starts now at 6 a.m. Before it was 5 a.m. So waking up at 4:30 and I'm just like I'm a zombie until
Whoa.
like 8, 9 in the morning. And if I don't
Wow.
have like my one good sleep on like my Saturday to Sunday morning, like honestly, like I'm a different person.
Yeah.
My brain is foggy and like my nutrition is bad, my movement is bad, and I'm just not there mentally.
No, if you're lacking
Hmm.
sleep, you're seeing shit.
Oh
You go
yeah.
delusional.
Hmm.
How the hell can you think straight, Okay, so do you ever have problems going to bed? What's with this like second wind shit? Tired at like 7:30. I'm like, it's too early. I don't want to go to bed now. And then all of a sudden it's 10. I'm like, I'm wide awake. Like, what the
Yeah, no
hell?
kidding. I think a lot of it has to do with like how your day has been. Like food has a big impact because like if you do go to bed at 10, 11 p.m. and then you're tired by 7, you have a meal, now your body's digesting rather than resting. And especially with depending what you've eaten, if it's high carb, high like glucose spiking foods, then your body's gonna be like, hey, I'm awake now. Cool, let's do
Okay.
this. So that's kind of like where your second wind may come from, as well as like what you've eaten during the day. Like if you're up early and your breakfast is like Starbucks coffee of like 1,200 calories full of sugar and like a bagel, you're getting no protein in that, no fats in that. It's just all sugar. And for the body, now your blood glucose goes up and then you have this crash midday and then you're having another coffee and then like your waves are now like going such highs and lows
It
that
fucks with your hormones,
well,
right?
that
Like,
too. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Because that's your cortisol levels, and then obviously like your other hormones, like your serotonin, dopamine, even like your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone are now like, hey, what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
the
a
more
slippery
long
slope.
term yeah, and the more long term that this happens, now you're developing chronic issues that are metabolic issues, hormonal issues. And then the person's like, whoa, like, how did I get here? Well, let's figure out, let's go back 10, 20, 30 years and like, what happened? Where did this all
Jesus.
start from? It's not even just what you did yesterday, it's what you did 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
So you go that deep. That's wow. Okay.
Hmm.
What advice would you give people to, start on that train of like, I don't know, bringing more awareness to this, I guess, and so maybe can inspire them to do what they need to do to get to bed earlier.
Well, the first thing is like, hey, work with me. Let's figure this out. Because
Ah, that's
I look thoroughly and like I do calls like a 30, 45 minute, an hour initial consultation with somebody where like we talk about like what you're eating, how's your sleeping, where's your stress level, how's your work, how's your family life, do you have kids, and how's that? And a lot of it has to do with those small habits, those daily habits of what's going on, and then kind of giving them a little bit of information is like, well, what's your breakfast like? Let's first look at that. Because breakfast for me, like, yes, somebody, a lot of people don't eat it. Like, my husband's not a breakfast person, but for me, I'm like, I can't live without breakfast. That's my foundational meal of the day. That's breaking your fast meal.
yeah.
So high protein, high fats, carbs, sure you can have them there. Just make sure you're not like just loading yourself up with sugar, because now that's going to digest slower. You're gonna feel more full, and it's gonna give you that energy for the remainder of the not the day, like at least until your next meal. Because if you're eating nothing but sugar, then you're gonna be hungry in like 30 minutes, an hour. So then you're gonna be craving more sweets, more sugary. But if you're having high protein, high fat meal, that's gonna give you good nutrients for the day or for half a day or until like your work day is done or whatever.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I'm not a fan with this.
I
Sometimes I
know
just
it's
kind
like
of go off and just
it's
talk about everything.
easy when you know so much about it. There's so much to add, and it's I'm even like already thinking like next few questions to ask. I'm like,
Mhm.
holy shit, we got a lot to go through here.
Yeah.
Um,
So regards to what I was saying, it's
yeah,
those small habits. Like you don't have to change your whole entire lifestyle, your whole entire day right off the bat. It's just starting small, starting with one meal at a time, one day at a time, one week at a time, and it's building because it takes like 21 days to build a habit. It takes at least 3 months to actually get into a good routine of it. And the
yeah,
mindset, especially like when we're going on diets, like those fad diets, a lot of it is the mind can't handle it because it's too much of a change. It's too fast of
mm,
a change. And the body, it does not like that. It likes to go slow. Like gain or lose 1 pound a week is where that norm is. Gaining or losing 5 pounds a week is it's too fast, too much. So then a lot of
mm,
times we rebound. And then there's those yo-yo diets. And the more of a process we go through those yo-yo diets, the more you're now ruining that metabolism to the
yes,
point where now it's like 10 years later, five fad diets later, and you're like, man, I can't lose this weight anymore, or I can't gain this weight anymore. Like, what's going on? And you're having other issues on top of this. So
mm-hmm,
you almost have to like restart and start slow. And that's what a lot
yes,
of times, like, I have to teach my clients, like, yeah, you have this goal for 3 months of losing 30 pounds or whatever it is to go on your vacation. Like, well, sure, that's your 3 months and you can get there, but what's going to happen during the vacation when you're going to eat all those foods again and stop your exercising. By the time you come back after the vacation, you're going to be even worse. You're going to gain all that
mm-hmm,
weight back plus more because now your body's like, cool, I don't have to put myself through this huge fast cycle anymore. I want to get back into what I'm so used to, which is
yeah,
like your like unhealthy diets, drinking all those sugary drinks and whatnot. So it's let's go slow. Let's
mm-hmm,
figure out what's going on in your life that's led you here. And then how can we get you feeling better? Because if you have 30 years of a bad diet, no movement, you're always hating on yourself, shitty job, stress, you're not going to see 100% shift in 3 months. That's like,
no,
it's almost
no.
impossible.
And I feel like that's where it can feel a little bit overwhelming because when you look at the big broad spectrum, it's like, holy fuck, like how the fuck am I going to get through all that?
Mhm.
Much like my notes here. Just kidding. But I guess when I try to get to the more psychological aspect of it and what I think of like moving past that I guess that brick wall, like those speed bumps, whatever it is, those setbacks are. I always say like first off, when it comes to diet, just eat the good stuff first, and if you're still craving, then do it. Go for it. But if you're not, then you'll see that you won't have to have that extra stuff because you just nourished your body. So
Mhm.
there's one. The next one is like, instead of worrying about taking things away, what can you add?
Yeah,
The small
exactly.
little things, what can you add to your repertoire? Is it drinking more water? Is it adding an extra meal? Is it not going to chips for a snack? I don't know, right? Like it
Yeah.
can be
Hmm.
very specific. Then the next one is like when it comes to um, like any of these hiccups, especially sleep. Sleep's a great one to start a little bit of a routine. The routine could be, like it's like it's like our children. When they were babies, when we get them ready for bed, what do we do? They had a routine. They had a little snacky snack, a little bath time, some story
Mhm.
time, maybe a little rub on the back, and then good night. So we
Yeah,
kind of,
exactly.
right? We could, and that's why I love talking about remothering the soul because we are now
Oh,
grown
I
ass
like that.
adults. Yeah. Our mommy's not going to hold our hand anymore. We are old enough to know better. So we need to remother our own soul. So what would that nighttime routine look like for you? And I love me a nice little bathy bath before I go to bed. I'm not going to lie. Like setting in intentions in that water, like that the element of water is like a quartz crystal. It just like amplifies everything, all your intentions, and coming out just feeling refreshed, just like a new start, even just before you went to bed. Um, just little things like that. So I think that's a really good perspective for bringing in that self care because, like, it needs to be a priority in that aspect, really. Because if we're not getting enough sleep, we're fucking crazy. If we're not getting the
Yeah,
right
exactly.
foods, we're not. We're never. It's that perpetual cycle of like disappointment.
Yeah, well, food, it's information, it's medicine. So
Yeah,
imagine like
information.
your
I like that.
body, like we are made out of the food that we eat. Our cells
Hmm.
work out of like off of the food that we eat. So if you're eating nothing but like Starbucks coffees and McDonald's, like what really are you feeding
I love how
yourself?
you
Like
keep
there's
saying Starbucks.
well, because it's so popular and like it really resonates with a lot of people. And I've had
Yeah.
clients where they're like, oh, I just had my Starbucks coffee in the morning and it's like triple shot sugar additive this. And you're like, ugh. Like, don't get me wrong, I like my Starbucks once in a while, but the more I know about it, the more I understand about the ingredients and what they use and what, like,
Yeah.
where their food comes from
Yeah.
is where I make those changes. Like I've been boycotting McDonald's for almost 20 years because I understand
Mm.
where they come from. I don't want to
Oh,
put
I
that
just
stuff in
got
my
the chills.
body.
Ooh.
Like yeah, as a teenager, sure, I ate like not a lot, but I had enough of it
Gotta
where I
have
started getting
shares.
sick off of it. Yeah. And I got sick from it like a few times where I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like that feeling. And at this point,
Hmm.
it was, yeah, it took me a while to change my mind about it. And now I'm just like, I don't really care for fast food. I
No,
don't.
it's
Like, I'd
almost
rather go
it's
somewhere else.
well, I feel like if you could, I like to like I've learned how to slow down in my life, okay? And what I have done to replace my ADHD, whatever tendencies, self-proclaimed, but I find that I spend a lot of my time now in preparation for what's next. So I'm organized, I'm on
Mhm.
time. I'm always still working on the timing thing, and I have to be kind about it because things happen, right? And we have to be real and like realistic based on our circumstances. But see, now I start trailing off, so I'm forget when I'm
Well, that preparation makes a lot of
the
sense
preparation.
because
Yes.
a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't have time. So they'll just go to
Yeah.
those fast food places just for convenience. And then they kind of,
But it's not. It takes more time.
yeah, exactly.
The
And then they
travel to
feel like
get there,
shit
wait in the
after. So it's like,
line.
well, is that really beneficial for you? Like, what
Yeah,
convenience are you getting out of this?
that's right. That's right. So
Mhm.
I have personally saved time and money. I just make my food. Fuck it.
Mhm.
Just, I don't know. I just always make sure I have protein available. That's
Exactly.
my
It's just a staple on literally every meal. And grass-fed, organic, pasture-raised is your way to go.
you
It's
got it.
more
That
nutrient
is
dense.
yes. And if it's game meat, even better, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. We are we're doing great for time. So, well, I mean, we're only number 1 still, but I feel like we could still but it's see how strong of a foundation that was though? That
Yeah,
self-care
exactly.
practice. That's
Hmm.
how we start that next level. You got to master a certain area in your life, that first part, and we got to graduate to the next part, to the next part, to the next part. So the first part of
Hmm.
it is the self-care practice. So fucking important. Like
Yeah. And honestly,
part
like self-care means different things for everybody. If they want to go have that cheap meal because they think they deserve it after a long week of work or whatever it is, then sure, go for it. But like
totally
if you understand that it's not giving any benefit, then let's make better choices, better like healthier choices around it. And
yeah,
it's just once again comes down to habits, choices, small choices, because it's not what you do once in a while, it's what you do like a lot of the
over time.
times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got it.
It's
Being
that 80
finding
20
ways to be
rule. Mhm.
consistent. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
absolutely. Okay, so now we have the number 2 on the list here, and this is a great one, is manage stress.
Oh, that's a big
Part of the
one.
mindset series here, mindset is to manage stress.
Mhm.
Okay, to help manage stress, one of them, obviously, go to number 1. We just talked about that. We have
Sleep.
managed stress. We got mindful meditation, tools to relax, and set healthy boundaries.
Mhm.
Okay, manage stress. I do teach meditation for this reason. Um, and I bring in multiple tools, much like we did when you came to our circle when we first met, bringing
Mhm.
in multiple tools to help that stress outside of that class setting, outside of that teacher moment. And a lot of that can look like a little bit of breath work. I find if breath work's not working, either movement or tapping works really well. I love my one of my girlfriends reminded me about like you know how do you remember when we did bija mantras?
I think
It
so,
was
yeah.
like starting from like the crown, it's like ah ha
Yeah,
whatever
yeah. Mhm.
ram. Um, so I come in with a technique, and it's like I call it remothering the soul, and it's like our own little Bijan mantra. So we all have like a fingerprint of our sound of our voice, and so it's a deep breath in through the nose and hum. And so I find that is a very helpful technique to do when you are stimulated, like overstimulated, say high populated situations, movie, anything that's like loud, lots of energy around you. I find that one really helpful. Nobody knows you're doing it except maybe the person that's sitting right beside you. um, those are the tools to relax. And then to set healthy boundaries. Well, when you do these self care practices, you naturally create these healthy boundaries, I
Mhm.
feel, because you see yourself as this valuable temple. Why fuck with that? Why would you put that in somebody else's hands to mess with you? You know, take you off your tilter or whatever it is that's not adding to your cup. I always say if it's not lifting you up and adding to your life, it's most likely pulling you down,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Mhm.
What else could you add to the managing the stress? Just
Um, One of
conversation.
my go-to ways that really works for me is like meditation is a huge one. Also, like I love sound bowls. Like it honestly just makes my whole body like just vibrate and I like just the sound in general, like music itself, like good music and just dancing in the living room, in the kitchen, just that movement with it. And then writing it out, like journaling. Um, what else is there? And talking about it too. I find talking for me is a big one because I tend to internalize a lot of everything. And especially when I'm
Mhm.
stressed or going through something, it just like it goes in circles in my mind. As soon as I start writing it out or just talking it out, it's almost like that release of energy, that stagnant energy that now I'm trying to process through. And it doesn't matter if I'm like talking to my husband, to my friends, or just writing it out or just talking it about it. Honestly,
Yeah.
it helps me just release it.
Like a talk therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, fuck, we're
Hmm.
human. I mean, we're designed to have connection. And if you can get some insight on some things that maybe you're going through, or just to hear yourself say it, sometimes it's just enough
Hmm.
therapy within itself. I
Yeah.
always like to teach people too, like on the other, like to add to that, is there are those reasons why you're triggered and the things that have sparked that perspective that made you feel uneasy.
Mhm.
And what we forget as humans is how powerful we really are. And it's really, it's about connecting to our subconscious
Mm.
and allowing your subconscious to be seen and heard and acknowledged. So what I teach is like when we try to identify it is like bring those aspects of yourself forward even though it doesn't feel good, but to find the spot on your body where you feel it the most. So some people like, it's in their sternum or their heart or in their gut. Maybe it's their throat. Like it just depends. And if you can feel into that part of you without trying to change or control anything, you're just literally breathing into the feeling. And I think that's what happens when we get into that perpetual cycle of like that, the darkness of it, and not being able to relieve ourselves from the thought, the squirrel mind thought is that we're trying to like control it somehow, trying to understand it. And we're not
Mhm.
really meant to understand everything. There's a lot of perspectives out. We don't even know what we don't know,
Yeah. And the more we
right?
know, we don't know.
So, in a lot of the times, the feeling that you're getting is quite often not even yours. It could be somebody else's. So, to
Yeah,
bring
that's
in the
something I've been realizing more recently. It's like,
yes,
why do I feel this way? Like I feel like it's not mine.
yes,
Hmm.
that's how powerful we are. We are beacons of these energies.
Yeah.
We have the ability to take on other people's stuff. So, with our intentions and awareness of it, we have the ability also to give it back and cut those
Hmm.
cords and be like, no, this, I got to reclaim what's mine and I'm going to give back what's not now that I know
Hmm.
what it is. And yeah, it's like, feel what you need to feel. Do you resonate with it? If you fucking don't, give it back. And if you do, then, take radical responsibility, which is easy. Just feel it. When you
Yeah.
do
And that's where
that,
those boundaries come from too. Is like,
right?
are you gonna say yes to this that you don't want, or are you gonna say no to this
Yeah,
because you just don't have the capacity to deal with it right now?
that's right.
Or
That's
if
right.
somebody's taking advantage of you, whatever the case may be, from partner or friend, business or whatever, like, are you going to allow this to happen?
Mhm.
Or are you going to say, no, I don't need this. This is not mine to take on.
Fuck, that runs so fucking
Hmm.
deep, man. Like,
Yeah.
uh, it's that's why I think this information's so important. It's like
Hmm.
to know that we're not alone in these thoughts and cycles, and it is part of the human condition, but we just need to bring knowledge and awareness so you don't identify yourself with these things because they're actually not
Hmm.
who you are, right?
Yeah,
They're just
exactly.
aspects of ourselves that we just haven't given space for yet. We haven't really acknowledged it fully.
Yeah.
So that's how you can heal those parts of you is just feel it in the body, exert that energy however you need, but just to acknowledge it and claim what's yours, give back what's not.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, and I do think that really does help with managing that stress because you can literally let go what you realize you don't have control over, and then going back to the things that you do, right?
Yeah, and just take it one day at a time. Like, why worry about what tomorrow is going to bring, what next year is going to bring, where you're like, you almost worry about it twice in the moment and then when
Right.
it actually does happen, if it does happen. Because a lot of things that we
Yes.
worry about doesn't even happen. So why kind of put yourself through those negative emotions when it's not
Torture.
necessary? Yeah, like I get it, like society nowadays, like finances, jobs, kids, families trying to make grow or trying to pay for groceries. Like, yeah, it is stressful for a lot of people, but it's like, well, a lot of people now step away from that presence for being present. Like, I have a roof overhead, I have food in my fridge, I have a loving family. Why do I have to worry about what next year is going to bring, what the election is going to bring, you know? And it's like, I am my own person. I'm in control of me. Nobody's going to take that from me.
Anna, that is so powerful and it's so true. Like,
Yeah.
you fucking nailed it, girl.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Not every day is easy to just be saying it because it does come with
No,
actions. But
that
like, if
okay,
you just
yes.
every day come back to yourself and be like, okay, today was a good day, or just start with a guided meditation first thing in the morning, or fall asleep with one. I find for me that's very helpful to just
Mhm.
ground myself, to calm myself, even if I'm anxious or going through something. I'll listen to an anxiety medication where I work with my breathing just to calm down my nervous system because in
Yes.
the day, like it's your nervous system that gets overactivated. And if you don't know how to really calm it down to ground yourself, it's going to get overactivated the next day and the next day. And 80% of our daily thoughts are exactly the same thing over and
Yeah.
over again. So let's rewire that brain, rewire that mindset, and rewire your nervous system to be more calm.
Like hugging a tree.
Yeah, exactly.
There's lots of
Mhm.
things that we can do to help calm that nervous system. And it does have a lot to do with our mindset and
Yes.
how we process what we perceive as stress or hang-ups or whatever. That's why we need to take radical responsibility and get curious as to what that is
Mhm.
instead of bringing shame and guilt and all the other bullshit that comes along with it that is what's dragging you down, making you small.
Mhm.
Now, to help with the managing the stress, also, which would be number three, is staying connected. I love this because we are designed to connect not only to self, but with others. And quite often we get it backwards. Use, we, we try to stay more connected to others than self. And that can be a strong distraction. Again, serving that dopamine hit when you're just
Yeah,
like,
especially through social media, like that phone,
ooh,
it's like it has to be within reach. And yeah, I'm
yes.
guilty of that sometimes. But sometimes I'll just, I'll just put it away in a different room. But I
Yeah.
do notice my mindset. I was like, oh my God, maybe I got a text message, maybe I got a like or whatever it is. I'm like, no, you know what? Whatever, I can hold off 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes without it. And the person's not gonna die without me.
No, they're not. And
Mhm.
if it was an emergency, they can text or call you. I don't know,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Hmm.
Um,
And I
yeah,
think we're like the last generation that grew up without technology, without phones. Like even my
yes.
son now, he's just like, I need to be on my screen. And like, go for a walk. Like go scooter
Yeah,
around the neighborhood like for five
go back to
minutes.
the basics. Well, these
Hmm.
devices are designed to keep our attention in a way that we can't put it down. But if we
Yeah, well, it's an
bring
addiction to the
it's
screen
an it,
time. Hmm.
it's what it's designed for. It actually gives off a certain light off your phone to
Yeah.
stimulate a certain area in your brain cell, brain stem, whatever, to keep
Hmm.
you, like, have you ever noticed you're tired before you go to bed and you make that oh and you put the phone and you got your phone on in the bed and you notice all of a sudden it changes the molecular structure of how you feel. Feeling
Yeah.
tired, no longer tired.
What
So
wakes you up? It now shifts your melatonin levels to be like, hey, I'm awake instead of
yeah,
I need to be going to sleep. So then you have trouble sleeping, you have trouble waking
yeah.
up, falling asleep, and now your whole day is ruined because now your circadian rhythm is almost backwards.
And
Hmm.
this is why we just, there is like that aspect to like staying connected is like creating boundaries around that. But the other part of it is like if you like back in the old day, before we had all these phones and bullshit, even though there's lots to be grateful for because we get to do shit like this, but
Yeah, yeah, of
um
course.
but before it was like literally a phone call or stopping by, knocking on the door and be like, "Hey, you want to have a tea?" making the most of the simple times and the simple things of connection. I have found, so I heard somebody say recently, I saw this guy for, he just did like a tune up, like fascia breaking and stuff, like massage. And he travels the world, and he was saying that he, out of all the areas in the world that he's traveled, he's found Canadians bringing solitude to the, it's not even solitude, like isolation. He's like, Canada does it the most. And I'm like, what?
Oh, interesting.
We're like, I'm like, really? So what I do know, going back to like heritage, and history and the makeup of women and how we connect is by coming together on a regular and helping each other out and supporting each other through, you know, raising a family and doing our jobs. We see the benefit of coming together. I mean, we did at least. And I do feel like we have this natural innate reason to like need to connect with your sisters and like community.
Mhm. Yeah, we're definitely
Um
stepping back into that.
mhm.
It is hard for sure because at this point it's you can't live off of one income. Like you have to have both parents work, and it's hard to have one person working while the mom stays home and takes care of the kids. But obviously every situation is different. But yeah. Hmm.
The sacrifice is there definitely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, living the day to day, but to make time for having a puzzle night,
Mhm.
playing some cards. How are you connecting as a community or with your family outside of movies and lack of eye contact and communication?
Mhm.
So, staying connected in that aspect is really important. And we're kind of, we just got to go back to the basics, bring the awareness around that aspect. The other thing we have here, we have, oh yeah, social activities. Oh, and also when you're going through these ebbs and flows of life, and life is hard, we don't have to do it alone. Ask for
Mhm.
help. People love to help, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have anybody, there's lots of people I'm sure you could reach out to. It's just having the courage to being able to do that is that one thing. And when you are asking for help, in my experience, a hey, how's it going isn't enough. If you need human connection, be honest and clear of why you're contacting that person. Okay? Hey, how's it going? You want to go for a beer when you're like fucking dying inside and you're like ready to like just do something crazy? Um, be clear why you're reaching out. Um, and yeah, don't have to do all hard things by yourself. Like I've asked, and I'm sure we've all done this. Hey, I'm moving. Can you help me move my house? Hey, I got a big ass shelf. I can't move by myself. Can I get some help?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So staying connected is part of the human makeup, and we need to just kind of set ourselves up so that we're tapping into that area. Um, and Anna, you can totally attest to this because you are a professional and people seek you out for that area in their life that they need help in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You're
Mhm.
the gal.
Yeah.
All
A lot
right.
of times, even during our sessions, it's like, oh, that was a good therapy session. A lot of times, it's like, yeah, we talk about the mindset stuff too, because
Yeah,
it's different than me telling them what to do. But if we like communicating through it while we're going through the movements of the exercises, it makes it that much better. Because after the hour, the
totally.
person's feeling much lighter. Their serotonin is more because they went through the movement, and then they just got to express their anxiety or frustration or whatever they're going through in
Yeah,
their
they feel
life.
heard, acknowledged,
Hmm. Yeah.
worthy. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So I build my, I guess my work off of like building relationships at the end of the day.
of
Because
course.
at the end of the time,
You're
at
a
the end
pro at
of, yeah.
it.
Yeah. working towards
Literally.
it.
Think about it like that. You are a pro, you get paid for
Mhm.
it. So,
Yeah. And that's where that mindset comes from too. It's not just fitness, it's not just nutrition, it's what you think about, what you do every day, what goes on in your head. Because, like, a lot of times I tell them, or even just people in general, is like, yeah, you can have your fitness 100%, you can have your nutrition 100%, but if you hate yourself internally, and if that self-talk is very negative, the other two are just going to cancel each other out.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Because your
100%.
cells, like you're a vibrational being. Like the more you talk to yourself in a positive way, your cells heal off of that. Are you gonna tell yourself like I am healing, or are you gonna tell yourself I hate myself, I hate my body? Like, what do you think is gonna be more beneficial for you?
I think a lot of people don't even know that they have
Hmm.
this internal dialogue.
Yeah, and that's why like your environment has such a big
Yeah,
impact on you too. Like, what kind of music are you listening to?
right.
Like, what are the words? What's the vibration of that music? What is it
Mm,
really feeding yourself? Like, that's why I say like that, like I love sound bowls. Like it's just like it's
mm.
such a awesome feeling for me. Like I just almost like I can't get enough of it.
That's hilarious. Do you have sound bowls?
I have one that I'm still trying to figure out how to use. I'd rather just go somewhere and have somebody like play it for me and I just lie there and just
It
embody
is
that
pretty
music. I
relaxing
love it.
playing it.
Yeah.
It just,
Yeah. For sure when you integrate like breath work with it. Oh my God, it's so
oh,
cool.
baby,
Mm.
talk my language.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. So back to filling your cup. Well, that's with you got sound bowls, things that are gonna fill your cup, the things that make you feel good about yourself. You
Mhm.
know, I always feel like the things that make you feel good. Well, drugs and alcohol can do that too. So, for the moment,
For a moment, yeah, but
for
you're
the
also
moment,
it's kind of like masking it though.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you're not
exactly.
dealing with the root issues of why you need to do that.
That's right.
Because that's kind of like where addiction stems from, is that lack of expression, lack of connection that you're getting from people. Like I'm not a
Yeah,
professional in addiction whatsoever. This is just kind of my representation of it and kind of what I know.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm. Well, I mean, you know how to do like the makeup of it, of like building that balanced mindset, and everything we're talking about can help with anybody, no matter what level of life they're in, even if they are in addiction. um I mean, I'm not a professional in it, but I grew up with a sober mother, and even though she was a single mother, and it was probably from grade 3 on. Pretty interesting backstory of all of that, but it it is definitely, there's steps to maintain that balance, because life can be challenging, and sometimes it's like, how are we dealing with that life, and what are we doing to deal with it, right?
Mhm.
So that's what we talked about with managing the stress, staying connected, filling your cup. And it is what we have, what I do have here, filling your cup, is learning and knowledge, right? Learn.
Mhm. Yeah.
When when I started, like, I don't know, when I started the Raw Babes podcast with Kristen, I was so fascinated with philosophy. I literally read like dozens of books, and I just like the knowledge, and it transpired into, what I do and how I can serve and help others. And yeah, it's now like I'm forever a student, and I will be learning
Mhm.
forever. Um, and I'm just kind of like surrendering to how this knowledge comes to me, and just trusting in the process, because
Mhm.
I'll take what I resonate with, and I'll leave the rest, like we all should, right? There's a lot
Yeah,
of information
exactly.
out there.
Yeah.
um, is it all correct? No, but on a spiritual aspect note, just learn. Keep learning. Put it together yourself. Figure
Yeah,
it
let
out.
it plant seeds. Like I'm
You
getting my
got it.
son to read The Power of Now right now. And I told him, like, honestly, like I don't care if you don't understand it. Just
Yeah.
read it, get what you can from it. Even if you get like 1% of what it talks about, just
Yeah,
read through it.
you got it. Because even if, like, I've read um, The Slight Edge a few times,
Mhm.
and every time I read it, I feel like I'm reading a new book. I'm picking up on
Yeah.
different things I wasn't picking up on before, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Maintain a healthy mindset. So that's practicing the gratitude, like you already talked about. I love that. And
Hmm.
creating positive affirmations. I just recently created a self love practice journal through Canva,
Ooh.
and I put a lot of time and effort into this because it really goes off the foundation that I teach from. And in there, it has how to create positive affirmations.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not going to get too deep into this right now because I really want to get through the rest of this. We only got a few more to go. Um, but if like, do you create positive affirmations for yourself?
Um,
What do
I
you
want to
usually
say,
like?
like, in small amounts, yes, I did used to work with affirmations like in my early mid 20s, just to kind of get out of that funk that I was going through as a single mother. So that really stemmed, um, yeah, like those affirmations really helped me just elevate my life and my mindset for like myself now and my future self.
Yeah,
The only affirmations I really work with is during like guided meditations where kind of like it helps me, yeah, it just gets my mind going and
bring in the
just puts it
intentions
at
and
ease.
focus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
focus on
Hmm.
what you want to meditate on and the energy that you want to call in, right? When you're
Hmm.
in that state of relaxation, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, cuz like I mean, I've heard it's like you can hear a positive affirmation. It might not be for you, so you're not going to resonate with it, or you need to create something to help rewire your brain. Um we hypnotize ourselves all the time, okay? I'll probably talk a lot about this in my series, but we tell ourselves pieces of shit, we're losers, can't do this, can't do that, I'm ugly, I'm fat, whatever. That's
Hmm.
hypnotizing. We believe it. So
Yeah.
why not say something of opposite, even if you don't believe it, but if you say it enough and it was resonated around that negative talk and you could turn those words around, it helps develop and rewire that new belief system in your cells and then eventually your subconscious. But you can't create these affirmations if you're not doing your self care, self love practice. You're actually putting action to it
Yeah,
because
exactly.
your subconscious knows better. It does.
Hmm. And it's not just like you say one line once and then your whole life
Yeah.
is changed. That's another thing that I
That's not what it's,
think I
yeah, it's,
realized like it doesn't happen like that. It's once again
no.
building those habits every day, practice every day until you do believe in it, until you do see it. Because
Yeah.
sometimes like people are like, oh, well, I don't, if I don't see it, I don't believe in it. Like, well, you got to believe in it to see it.
You know, a really good tip
Mhm.
for everybody is write this affirmation out, whatever it is that you need to. And if you want to learn how to more do this, you can Google this shit or take a look at the
Yeah, like
journal that I
write it on
created.
your window, write it on your
Your
mirror
window.
where you
I was
look at
going to say
yourself.
put it
Just say
as a
like, I love
wallpaper.
you, or like, you're amazing. Yeah,
Make it a
wallpapers as
wallpaper on your
well.
phone. You fucking looking at
Hmm.
your phone all the time. May as well.
Yeah.
But
Because
yeah,
yeah,
there's
once
a
again,
lot of,
it's yeah.
yeah, people get kind of like, oh, weird about affirmations, but like that's really coming from anybody who probably isn't adding to this self care practice. This is just like
Yeah.
not one of these things that we talk about is like going to be the be all end all. You just got to add all of
Hmm.
them pretty much.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, yeah, affirmations, people don't necessarily believe in it, but they tell themselves negative affirmations all day long. So
That's
why can't
right.
we shift that into a positive affirmation? Like you've said, I hate you, I hate myself how many times for how many years? Let's rewire that, rewire the brain, let your neurons make new connections to more positive, saying like, no, I love you, I love you, I love you. Like, I don't even care how many times a day you have to
Yes.
say that to yourself until you actually like believe that.
Open up your heart. I love you.
Hmm.
Like when we do this, it is a sign of surrender
Hmm.
naturally, right? And like surrendering and just being open. So if we can open our heart center, just doing this, instantly raises our vibration. It makes you feel different. So if you're
Mm,
nervous for like an interview or like an interaction, just surrender and just lead with your heart. And your heart is love. Love
mhm,
is the answer. It's like corny
mhm.
as fuck, but it's true.
Yeah.
You get
And
down to the
we
nitty gritty.
yeah, we hold feelings in our body as well. That's one thing that people don't realize is because it's hard to understand, and I understand that because like I try to teach it too, and people are like, ah, that makes no sense. Like, well, in a way it does. It's because your body's very powerful. Your thoughts are very
Very.
powerful. Hmm.
It's under it we don't give it enough credit. How about that? We don't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
we haven't even been taught this. We take it for
Hmm.
granted.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's like, wait a
underrated.
minute. It's
Hmm.
so underrated. Like, so yeah, we do store. I agree. And I
Hmm.
we store this in our body, in our fascia, our organs, and then I always say, and then just try to put this in people's minds, whatever you're dealing with physically, there's always an energy correlation. Always.
Yeah, I agree. And I've seen that, like I've witnessed it in myself, so I'm a strong believer in that.
Yes.
Even
You
as
still got
little
to
as
do the
like,
therapy and all the things to help
yeah.
heal, whatever. But there is, if
Mhm.
you can bring back and energetically where it's coming from, you usually can, peel the onion long, enough to come to the core solution of it and
Mhm.
learn how to heal that part of you,
Yeah, exactly. Well,
right?
like even what I
Make it
said
move on.
earlier, like as much as you can go work out as much as you want, you can eat the healthiest diet, but if you're still hating yourself that you still don't look good enough or this and that, everything else is not gonna matter.
Guilty.
Oh
Totally
yeah,
done that.
we all are. It's
I was
how
like my
we're
most
almost like
fit, and I was like,
programmed.
yeah, I was like, I'm not fit enough. I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you? Well, I
Mhm.
was like, every time, like, it was my most fit, and I'd get ready for a photo shoot. Oh, I don't want to do the photo shoot. I'm not thin enough.
Mhm.
What are you saying?
Yeah.
Like, I look back at those photos, and I remember I was thinking that. And I was like, fuck it, I guess I got to do the photo shoot. And I'm like, I look banging, man. Like, I was like, I'm
Well,
so
we're our own
lean.
biggest critics. Like we judge ourselves more than anybody else judges us.
I'm such an asshole to myself. Um, okay, so limit overload, burning the candle at both ends,
Mhm.
right? Reduce screen time, prioritize your tasks, say no to unnecessary commitments. Take regular breaks throughout the day to charge. And I love that because even 5 minutes of just sitting is helping you reduce that stress response in your body. You can feel it tingling as you sit, try to relax. And that is your nervous system.
Yeah.
It's fucking on
Mhm.
fire. And our culture is we're so designed to live in that state, we don't even know what relax is.
Mhm.
So it is true. Slow down that nervous system, take a break. That's why we say have that nice hot bath, go for a walk,
Mhm.
do these things to give you a moment. And it is about lowering your stress response, always,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Blue zone areas in the world, why do you think they live for so long? Because they've practiced how to lower all stresses. They don't stress.
Mhm.
No.
Yeah, they grow their own food, they go movements no matter what the weather is, no matter how old they are, and their community is very built off of that. Because
Yes.
I've watched those shows on the blue zones, and a lot of times they say, like,
Yes.
honestly, it comes down to the community that you have. Because we're not
It comes
designed to
down
be
to this
alone.
list right
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
That's what it comes down
Hmm.
to.
Hmm.
And we're talking about it like it's fucking new.
Right?
It's okay. That's
Hmm.
okay. I see holes in the game. That's why I'm doing this. So,
Hmm.
and that's
That's why
why
we're
you
both doing this. That's why we're in
you
this
got it.
industry because it's not just, oh, you gotta work out to look good. It's like, no, you have to feel good too.
That's
Because
a
that's kind
perk.
of, yeah, exactly. Hmm.
Yeah. It's
Because like
important.
what's the first thing that somebody notices when they start a new workout routine? They sleep better, they feel better, they get stronger. The physical aspect, the aesthetics now is kind of like your end result. And then you get hooked on it too. You get hooked on like,
Yes.
I feel better, I have more energy. I don't have those
Look what
midday
I
slumps.
can
I
accomplish.
sleep better.
Yeah, but look what
Yeah.
I can accomplish. Like
Mm-hmm.
building that confidence, developing that self worth at the same time makes you realize you can do hard things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you are capable of doing something that seems unattainable. I am huge guilty with this. This is something I fucking have struggled with all my life. And I have to fight really hard with that part of myself. And like, I can do hard things, you know, like I am capable because when I don't feel that level of self-esteem, I make myself small and I hide
Mm-hmm.
and I hide those parts of myself where I want to be expansive. And that's the energy that's being called to currently right now up until the new year is a time to expand. We're
Mm-hmm.
meant to evolve, and when we stay stuck, it's actually detrimental to our well-being, our mental health, all the things. It's not good for us to stay still. So we need to
Yeah.
find ways to expand and look at the aspects of ourselves that we just haven't been. So I feel like we're touching on majority of them right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure everybody that's listening right now can resonate with this. Like everybody. I don't give a fuck who you are. If you're human, you can resonate.
Yeah.
Um, so now we're almost we got two left, girl. This is
Oh,
amazing.
nice. Mm-hmm.
Seek professional help if needed.
Mm-hmm.
If you're struggling, consider a therapist or counselor. Um, Join a support group. And there's therapy apps. I didn't know this. I have a list of therapy apps. They're in my notes. I'm not going to read them, but I'm going to put them in the show notes. That's what I'm going to do. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, do you have a therapist or a counselor? I know it's a deep question, but I feel like we shouldn't be
I've
shameful to talk
worked
about
with a few for sure.
it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
me
find it
too.
definitely helps because it once again comes down to just me talking about it, talking
Working it
through it,
out.
and getting somebody else's perspective without putting emotions into it.
Playing into
That
the
makes sense.
emotions.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because a lot of those emotions is almost like a story that we could tell ourselves and find we find truth behind it, right?
Hmm.
Because of the way it makes us feel. So it's a really powerful thing. Yeah, I've definitely had therapy and counselors and those are the times when I'm struggling trying to find an understanding or I'm like really stuck somewhere in my life that like I want to evolve and I've had to work around a lot of shame and guilt of that too. I feel like for a long time like no you would never dare to talk about having a therapist or a counselor back in the day at least in the 90s.
Hmm.
Nobody talked about that. Like it was just like I feel like well, I mean, I was born in 81 and I feel like a lot of like my learning and the way like I experienced life kind of fell through the cracks a little bit, you know, in the education
Hmm.
system and it had a lot to do with how I was processing my emotions. And I didn't have anybody to talk to. So I'm surprised I'm alive.
I'm glad you're alive.
I I can do hard things.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes. I mean I've learned there's no coincidence to why we're here. I feel like it's a really interesting time to be alive and what's
Hmm.
happening. I
Oh,
mean,
definitely.
we're all born we all get born, we all die. I mean, what are we doing with our time? How are we having cause and effect? Why are we
Hmm.
here? I don't know. I feel like it's so important to find purpose and to help find purpose is to build this strong foundation like what we're talking about here. Okay.
Hmm.
Right? You had to do a
Yeah.
lot of this work to get to where you're at, I'm sure, or it helped you along
Hmm.
the way.
Yeah, for sure. And I've come across a couple quotes recently more. So is like if you don't know what your purpose is, start with taking care of yourself first, making sure that you're whole, your body's safe, that you feel safe in your environment. Because from there, that's where you'll find your passions, your purpose, and like your love for life in general.
Okay, I can't even believe I haven't even like mentioned this, but you just
Yeah.
said it, is your safe environment.
Hmm.
You can't do this work if you don't feel safe. That
Yeah.
is priority one. Number one, if you are not safe in your sacred space, you got to figure that out. You got to figure that out. You can't, there's a lot that probably is, that needs to be healed and uncovered when you don't live in a safe space.
Yeah.
We do the best with what we can, but that's when, we want to seek that help. We don't have to do all hard things by ourselves. Understand how our brain works, why
Hmm.
we do what we do. The perpetual cycle of abuse is really psychologically um, unbelievable. How we think and the actions that we take because of that abuse, from abuse from others, and then the abuse you do to yourself, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I can't say that enough, is to find that sacred space so you can be vulnerable enough to do this work. Okay. I don't know
Yeah,
why that came in
exactly.
so strong. I don't know. I know what it's like, how hard it is to tap into this kind of shit when you're not safe in your own environment. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
especially with depending what's happened to you and like in your
Yeah.
childhood, teen years, or young adulthood, whatever, especially as a woman too, that like the world can be dangerous. And like as a
Yes.
mother, it's like I have to be like make sure I know where my kid is at all times because at this point, like there's so many creeps out there, even for myself, like the stories I hear of like people, some like weirdos putting like air tags on like a woman's car and just following her around. Like, what the heck is
Oh,
that? Like, what's your plan with that? Like, really?
oh my
So
God.
the more you hear about that, and it's getting more and more common where like a woman's safety is almost like jeopardized.
Yes.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean, it can, it's the eye of the beholder. We can't help those who have those intentions, but
Hmm.
we don't have to be victims of that. And I say that strongly. I just took a self-defense course or class
Oh,
in
cool.
my the studio I go to for jiu-jitsu. They put it on,
Hmm.
and I've been looking for a self-defense women's class for forever, and it really saddened me that there wasn't anything available. And my fucking gym put one on, and it was packed. It was like there was, I mean, a lot of people didn't show up, but a lot of people did. So I see room for, you know, that way. We gotta feel confident in the way that we show up. And if that means, we're worried about our safety, um, definitely get into some self-defense, whatever that looks like. There's lots available, lots of gyms. It's more lucrative, not as lucrative anymore as it used to be. Um, yeah. You ever watch that movie Enough from Jennifer Lopez? Jennifer Lopez in it.
Probably.
She played a victim to an abusive marriage, and she couldn't get away from the husband. He was really dangerous, and legally, and he actually had in on with the police. He had like best friends that worked in there, so they kept fucking with her.
Hmm.
So she took it upon herself to turn herself into a weapon, pretty much.
Hmm. Yeah.
And sometimes you just take care of your shit yourself, like you're in a
Hmm.
position where you have to defend yourself. It is it's it's nice to know that you could hold your own if you have to. Not
Yeah.
that we want to think that we have to, but
If it
you
comes
know,
down to it. Yeah.
yeah, fucking right.
Yeah. Because for
And
me, I find like a lot of it has to do once again to mindset. Are you gonna do nothing and
yes,
play victim to this, or are you gonna take matters into your own hands? Because I'm a
you
strong
got it.
believer in like the energy and the aura around me. Am I gonna make myself small and attract that, or am I gonna make myself big and strong and kind of repel that kind of energy?
Yes, and it's
Hmm.
how we carry ourselves, right? You can carry yourself even if you could pretend that you are confident.
Mhm.
and put that memory into your cells just by pretending, you know? Yeah, it goes a long way. I've had people, hey, I am not perfect, man. We can all say that. And I've been
Mhm.
told so many times, you're so confident, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, in a lot of aspects, but there's a lot of aspects of myself that I haven't been. And it took a lot of work and
Yeah.
just a lot of curiosity, really, as to like why I felt insecure in these areas and why am I making myself feel small.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so we're going back to the list. The last one, final. Wow, this was amazing. Cultivating meaning and purpose. And we talked a lot
Mhm.
about that
That's
to
a
help with
powerful one.
very powerful.
Mhm.
And I don't know that you can get to this until you look at all the other ones a little bit, a lot,
Yeah, I agree for sure.
right? Um, some really like easy, like an easy one is to volunteer, help out. How can you be a service? There's lots of people in need. You are a master at something, whether even if you don't know what it is, you know, do something where you can volunteer. There's lots of ways you can do that. Senior work, church. Um, Churches usually have a lot of connections. Um, then we want to set goals that align with passion and value. But how do you know what you're passionate about, what's valuable to you? You won't know until you do those other steps.
Yeah,
Take care of
exactly.
yourself, right?
Mhm.
Once you start becoming you graduate, you master a little bit part of that, you understand a little bit more about yourself, and you move on to the next thing. That's how you evolve, right?
Mhm.
And then we have reflect what brings you joy and incorporate that into your daily life. And we talked about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Joy is so important, honestly, like especially like as we talked about in today's society where it's always go, 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 stress this, stress that. Finding joy in just the small things is such a huge shift into like, I'll deal with that another day, or I'll deal with that later, or whatever the case is. Or
Yeah.
this doesn't matter, it's not as big as I'm trying to claim it to be, or whatnot.
It is so true. And I feel like, a lot of this, you can branch off in so many different ways. You can add to this, but that self-discovery, it comes down to that self-care. And
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, Anna, we fucking nailed it, man. Like we did the thing. Hey,
Mhm.
I even we exceeded my own expectations and
Yeah, me too.
honestly, I'm so grateful that you came on and supported me in this beautiful platform. And yeah, I have your back. I love what you do. I
Thank you.
think you are a beautiful human and I love how authentic you do show up. And I think just keep continuing doing what you're doing and yeah, I just
Mhm.
can't say enough.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I feel the same
Yeah,
about you, honestly.
thank
I love
you.
what you do and the fact that you brought me on here as my first podcast.
Yes.
hmm
This is
It's
great. It
been,
was
yeah.
easy, right?
Yeah, it's just having conversations about the daily life things, It's
Yeah.
honestly like that's what I talk with people about on my social media in person, with family, friends. It's literally what it is.
This is the foundation of the work that you do. And
Mm-hmm.
even just having this episode out into the ethers now, you can always use this as reference as to how amazing you are in the work that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, stay on here, Anna. I want to finish up, but for everybody else, I want to thank you for listening. I hope you caught all of that. You took some notes. I'm going to share what I feel would be the most important to put into the show notes, and I will add that um, the apps, the therapy apps, which I'm excited to dive into. I didn't even know that they were out there, and I'm
Yeah,
looking at
actually
them
wouldn't
like,
mind knowing.
yeah, I'll
Mhm.
share the list with you. It's kind of dope. I mean, maybe we could share that with our clients
Mhm.
and everybody else. So thank you so much for listening. and we will see you next time.